Hello, Dynasty women. Disappearing without a trace isn't rude, it's a skill, and Sigma females have mastered it. You've probably experienced it before. One day she's present, engaging, maybe even a little mysterious. Then, like a shadow at dusk, she's gone. No explanations, no long-winded goodbyes, just radio silence. If you've ever been ghosted by a Sigma female, you weren't just left on read. You were erased from existence. But why? Why do Sigma females vanish so effortlessly? Is it personal? Yes and no. Is it calculated? Absolutely. And most importantly, should you take it as a sign to self-reflect or simply accept that you've just been Thanos snapped out of her reality? Here's a cold, hard fact. The human brain craves closure. It hates unfinished stories, unanswered texts, and doors left slightly ajar. But Sigma females, they don't operate by those rules. They don't owe closure, they don't seek validation, and they certainly don't care about the societal guilt trip attached to ghosting, so buckle up. This isn't your typical she's just busy analysis. We're diving deep into the real reasons why Sigma females ghost people. And trust me, the truth is colder than you think. Number 1. They don't mourn the dead weight they drop. Once a Sigma female decides to walk away, it's final. There are no second thoughts, no late-night moments of weakness, no last-minute reconsiderations. She doesn't mourn the people she leaves behind because, in her mind, the decision was made long before she actually disappeared. By the time she ghosts, she's already emotionally detached. What remains is just a formality, her silence. Unlike most people who struggle with letting go, a Sigma female doesn't dwell on the past. She won't stalk your social media, reread old messages, or wonder if she made the right choice. She moves forward with an almost unsettling level of certainty, as if you never existed in her world to begin with. This isn't out of cruelty, it's just how her mind works. Once she categorizes someone as irrelevant to her growth, she wipes the slate clean. No emotional baggage, no guilt, no lingering attachments. Her silence isn't an invitation for closure. It is the closure. She believes actions speak louder than words, and her vanishing act is the loudest statement she can make. If you're looking for an explanation, you won't get one. She won't justify her absence or entertain pleas for answers. The way she sees it, if you couldn't sense the disconnect before she left, you weren't paying attention. Regret is a foreign concept to her. She doesn't play the what-if game because she trusts her instincts. If she walked away, it was necessary. There is no nostalgia, no longing, no secret hope for a reunion. She doesn't believe in forcing relationships to work, and she certainly won't waste time on something that no longer serves her. While most people need emotional closure to move on, a Sigma female is wired differently. She understands that not every ending needs a conversation, not every exit needs an explanation, and not every ghosting is meant to be reversed. Once she's done, permanently. Number 2. They are hypersensitive to energy shifts. A Sigma female doesn't just observe people, she reads them. She picks up on energy shifts faster than most, sometimes before the other person even realizes they're acting differently. It's an instinct, an almost psychic ability to detect the slightest change in tone, body language, or even texting patterns. And once she senses something off, she doesn't wait around for it to escalate. She leaves, immediately. Neediness? She spots it the moment someone starts relying on her attention for validation. Fake enthusiasm? She can tell when someone's forcing a connection, pretending to care more than they actually do. Resentment? She notices the micro-expressions, the passive-aggressive remarks, the unspoken jealousy lurking beneath the surface. These shifts don't need to be loud or obvious. She feels them in the silence, in the way conversations become subtly strained, in the hesitation before someone speaks. To most people, these small changes might seem insignificant, but to a Sigma female, they are red flags. She doesn't need a dramatic fallout or an explosive argument to walk away. The moment she senses an energy she can no longer trust, she detaches. There's no confrontation, no warning, just a quiet decision to remove herself from the equation. This hyper-awareness is both a gift and a burden. It keeps her from wasting time on insincere relationships, but it also means she rarely experiences the bliss of ignorance. She can't unsee what she sees. She can't ignore the shift. And because she values her peace more than explanations, she doesn't stick around to investigate whether it's just a bad day or a deeper issue. She trusts her gut, and if it tells her something is off, that's all she needs to know. People often wonder why she disappears so suddenly, why she ghosts without a clear reason. But for her, the reason is crystal clear. It's in the energy. And once that energy no longer aligns with hers, she's already gone. Number 3. Emotional fatigue hits harder than expected. Sigma females don't spread their energy thin. They don't entertain surface-level connections, nor do they waste time on people they don't genuinely care about. When they invest in someone, whether it's a friendship, a relationship, or even a deep conversation, they invest fully. They listen intently, support without hesitation, and absorb emotions like a sponge. But that level of intensity comes with a price: emotional fatigue. Unlike others who can casually socialize without much consequence, a Sigma female feels every interaction on a deeper level. She notices the unsaid words, the hidden meanings behind actions, and the weight of other people's emotions pressing against her own. It's not something she does consciously, it's just how she's wired. And eventually, it wears her down. But here's the thing. When she reaches that breaking point, she doesn't announce it. She doesn't send a message saying, "I need space," or "I'm feeling drained." She doesn't hint at her exhaustion or warn people that she's about to disappear. She simply shuts down. One day she's present, engaged, and seemingly fine. The next, gone. Messages go unanswered, plans get ignored, and she retreats into herself like a fortress locking its gates. It's not personal, it's survival. She doesn't ghost to be cruel. She ghosts because she has nothing left to give. At that moment, explanations feel like another demand on her already depleted energy reserves. She isn't ignoring people out of malice, she's protecting herself from further exhaustion. The most brutal part? She won't apologize for it. Once she disappears, she's not looking for people to chase after her or demand answers. She expects others to either understand or move on. And when she finally recharges and resurfaces, she's unlikely to revisit the connections she left behind. To her, that chapter closed the moment she stepped away. People often misinterpret her silence as coldness, but the truth is far simpler. She gave too much for too long, and now she's done. Number 4. They outgrow people at an unforgiving speed. Sigma females don't just change, they evolve, rapidly, relentlessly, and often without warning. One day they might resonate deeply with someone, sharing thoughts, ideas, and emotions as if they're on the same wavelength. The next? That person feels like a relic of a past life, someone who no longer fits into the world they've stepped into. And when that happens, there's no drawn-out discussion, no nostalgic reflection, just silence. For most people, growth is a slow and steady process. They adapt to change gradually, allowing their relationships to evolve alongside them. But Sigma females move differently. Their minds are always absorbing, processing, and redefining their perspectives. They are always in motion, pushing themselves toward new heights, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually. And if someone isn't evolving at the same pace, they become a weight rather than a companion. This isn't arrogance, it's necessity. Sigma females don't believe in dragging people along who aren't willing to keep up. If someone is stagnant, repeating the same cycles, clinging to outdated mindsets, or resisting growth, they become an anchor rather than an ally. And Sigma females have no patience for dead weight. The most brutal part? There's no warning. One day, everything seems fine. Conversations flow, inside jokes are shared, and it feels like the connection is solid. Then suddenly they're gone. No argument, no falling out, just an unspoken realization that the person they once connected with no longer fits into their evolving world. And once that realization hits, there's no turning back. It might seem cold, but to a Sigma female, it's just reality. She has no interest in maintaining relationships out of habit or obligation. If a connection no longer adds value to her journey, she doesn't force it. She leaves. Not out of malice, not out of bitterness, but because she refuses to hold herself back for the sake of someone else's comfort. She doesn't slow down for anyone. Either keep up or get left behind. Number 5. Explaining themselves feels like a waste of energy. Sigma females don't do closure. They don't sit down for long, drawn-out conversations about why they're leaving, nor do they feel the need to soften the impact of their absence with carefully worded explanations. When they decide to walk away, that decision is final. And to them, explaining why is nothing more than wasted energy. Most people need a sense of resolution, some kind of verbal confirmation that the connection is over. They crave closure because it gives them a way to make sense of things, to process the loss, to find something to blame. But Sigma females don't see the point. In their world, the decision itself is the closure. Once they're mentally checked out, talking about it won't change anything. It's not about being heartless. It's about efficiency. A Sigma female doesn't believe in justifying choices that feel obvious to her. If she left, it was necessary. If she stopped responding, it wasn't a mistake. If someone didn't see it coming, that's their problem, not hers. She assumes that people either understand or move on. Anything in between is just unnecessary noise. She also knows that most explanations don't actually help. People don't listen to understand. They listen to argue, to defend, to convince. And a Sigma female has zero interest in engaging in emotional negotiations. If she's made up her mind, there's nothing left to discuss. If someone demands an explanation, all they'll be met with is silence, the brutal truth. If she felt like you were worth explaining herself to, she probably wouldn't have ghosted in the first place. Her absence is the message. If you don't get it, that's on you. Number 6, people assume they're always available, which repels them. Sigma females don't do convenience relationships. The moment someone starts treating their presence as a given, expecting them to always be there, always respond, always show up without effort, they're out. They value their time and energy more than anything, and they refuse to be placed on anyone's back burner. If they sense that someone is engaging with them out of habit rather than genuine appreciation, they disengage without hesitation. They're not interested in being an option, a backup plan, or an emotional safety net. What makes it worse is that people often mistake their independence for unlimited availability. Because Sigma females don't demand constant attention or validation, people assume they'll always be around, waiting patiently. But the moment that entitlement creeps in, the expectation that they'll always text back, always be understanding, always make time, they lose all interest. Nothing repels them faster than someone who assumes they have them. The second a Sigma female feels like she's being taken for granted, she vanishes. No warning, no explanation, just silence. It's not about playing games or seeking revenge, it's about self-respect. She refuses to stay where she isn't actively valued, and once she's gone, she stays gone. She doesn't entertain guilt trips, second chances, or apologies laced with excuses. If someone only realizes her worth after she's disappeared, that just proves her point. She was never truly valued in the first place. Number 7. They test people without them knowing. Sigma females don't waste time on illusions. They know that not every connection is as deep as it seems, and they refuse to invest in something that's only strong on the surface. But instead of asking outright, instead of seeking reassurance through words, they run silent tests. One of the most effective, ghosting. To some, disappearing might seem like avoidance or emotional detachment, but for a Sigma female, it's a litmus test. If she suddenly stops texting, stops making plans, or simply withdraws, she's watching closely. Who notices? Who reaches out? Who lets her go without a second thought? The answers reveal everything she needs to know. Most people assume that if a relationship is solid, it will naturally sustain itself. But Sigma females know better. They understand that many people only keep them around out of convenience, routine, or even ego. They want to see who values them actively, not just when they're present, but when they're absent. If someone doesn't check in, doesn't make an effort, doesn't even seem to care that she's gone, that's all the confirmation she needs. The connection wasn't as real as it seemed. And once that suspicion is confirmed, she doesn't come back. There's no explanation, no confrontation, just quiet elimination. Some might call it harsh, but to her, it's necessary. She has no interest in one-sided relationships, or people who only value her when she's in front of them. If someone isn't willing to chase, they were never really there to begin with. Number 8. They don't romanticize forever. Sigma females don't buy into the fantasy of forever. They don't cling to people out of nostalgia, obligation, or blind loyalty. To them, relationships, whether friendships, romances, or even business partnerships, aren't about longevity. They're about alignment. And the second that alignment is lost, so is their attachment. Unlike most people who fight to keep relationships alive just because they've been through a lot together or invested too much time, Sigma females don't see time spent as a reason to stay. They aren't emotionally tied to history. Just because someone was important doesn't mean they will be forever. If the connection no longer serves a purpose in their growth, they walk away. Cleanly, quietly, and without regret. It's not coldness, it's clarity. They understand that people evolve at different speeds, and sometimes those paths diverge. While others may desperately try to force old dynamics to work, Sigma females accept when something has run its course. No forced loyalty, no unnecessary suffering, just a clean break. That's why when they leave, they do it with eerie finality. They don't hover in the background, checking in, hoping to rekindle something that no longer fits. Once they detach, it's as if the connection never existed. Not because they didn't care, but because they refuse to hold on to something that no longer aligns with who they are. To some, this makes them seem heartless, but to a Sigma female, it's just reality. Nothing is permanent. Not friendships, not relationships, not even the version of herself that existed yesterday. And she wouldn't have it any other way. Number 9. They don't operate on guilt, only logic. Sigma females don't make decisions based on guilt. They make them based on logic. And once they decide to walk away, no amount of emotional manipulation, guilt-tripping, or desperate pleas will change their mind. They see through every attempt to make them stay out of obligation. The dramatic messages, the "after all we've been through" speeches, the teary-eyed guilt trips, none of it moves them. If anything, it reinforces their decision. To a Sigma female, these tactics scream emotional dependency. And that's exactly the kind of energy they refuse to entertain. Most people are wired to feel bad when they leave someone behind. They wrestle with questions like, am I being unfair? Or what if they're really hurting? But Sigma females don't waste time in that emotional tug-of-war. They believe that staying in a relationship out of guilt is the fastest way to resentment, and they'd rather be seen as cold than trapped in something they no longer want. This is why their exits feel so final. There's no lingering attachment, no second-guessing, no remorseful texts sent in the middle of the night. They don't ghost because they enjoy hurting people. They ghost because they refuse to be manipulated into staying where they no longer belong. People often assume they're heartless, but that's not the case. They simply prioritize their own peace over someone else's expectations. They won't stay just to make you feel better. They won't return just because you need closure. And they definitely won't be guilted into keeping a connection alive that, to them, is already dead. Once they've made their decision, it's done. Not because they don't care, but because they refuse to let guilt control them. Number 10, they have no time for emotional immaturity. Sigma females have zero patience for emotional immaturity. If someone is needy, passive-aggressive, or emotionally volatile, they don't waste time trying to fix, comfort, or decode them. They leave, quickly and without explanation. They expect the people around them to be emotionally self-sufficient. That doesn't mean they lack empathy or refuse to support others, but they have no interest in relationships that feel like babysitting someone's emotions. If a person constantly needs reassurance, crumbles under pressure, or lashes out when they don't get their way, a Sigma female sees it as a liability. Passive-aggressiveness, immediate turn-off, instead of playing the game of what's wrong? Nothing. They'll just remove themselves entirely. They don't have time to figure out what someone really means when they could be spending their energy on people who communicate openly. Emotional volatility, another deal-breaker. If someone is constantly swinging between extremes, 1 minute affectionate, the next distant, unpredictable, or reactive, a Sigma female sees that as emotional instability, and she's not signing up for that roller coaster. She values consistency, emotional intelligence, and the ability to handle life without dragging others into unnecessary drama. Neediness? Forget it. The moment someone starts relying on her for constant validation, approval, or emotional hand-holding, she backs away. She is not a therapist, a security blanket, or a source of endless emotional labor. She expects people to handle their own emotional well-being instead of making it her responsibility. The brutal truth? Sigma females don't ghost because they enjoy cutting people off. They ghost because they refuse to be trapped in draining, emotionally exhausting dynamics. If someone can't regulate their own emotions, if they rely on guilt-tripping, mind games, or constant reassurance, a Sigma female won't argue, negotiate, or try to work through it. She'll simply disappear. Number 11. The more someone chases, the faster they run. Sigma females value their space like oxygen. Take too much of it away and they suffocate. Nothing pushes them away faster than someone who doesn't respect their need for distance, independence, and solitude. And the more someone chases them, clings to them, or tries to force a connection, the faster they vanish, permanently. Desperation is a major repellent. The moment someone starts texting excessively, demanding attention, or pushing for emotional reassurance, a Sigma female feels an overwhelming urge to escape. It's not that she doesn't care. It's that she hates feeling emotionally cornered. She doesn't need constant validation or forced intimacy. So when someone tries to smother her with affection or begs for her attention, she sees it as emotional dependence, and she wants no part of it. People make the mistake of thinking that chasing will make her stay. That if they just try harder, send another message, call one more time, prove their devotion, she'll finally give in. But it has the opposite effect. The more someone tries to pull her back, the faster she detaches. If she was already considering leaving, chasing confirms she made the right decision. Nothing screams insecurity louder than someone who refuses to take a hint. Sigma females don't play games. When they take space, it's not a test. It's not an invitation to chase, it's a warning. A chance to respect their boundaries before they make their final exit. But when someone ignores that warning, it solidifies their decision. The moment she feels like she's being pursued, she's already gone. The worst thing someone can do after she ghosts? Keep trying. Keep reaching out. Keep pleading for answers. To a Sigma female, that kind of behavior isn't endearing, it's suffocating. And once she sees someone as desperate, there's no coming back from it. She won't feel sympathy, nostalgia, or regret. She'll feel nothing. If someone truly wants to keep a Sigma female in their life, the answer isn't to chase, it's to respect her space, because the moment she feels hunted, she becomes impossible to catch. Number 12. They don't do emotional labor for free. Sigma females are not emotional dumping grounds. They don't exist to absorb other people's problems, fix broken individuals, or serve as unpaid therapists. The moment they sense someone leaning on them too heavily, expecting them to be a constant source of comfort, validation, or emotional support, they walk. It's not that they lack empathy. In fact, they often care deeply, but only for those who respect their boundaries. They have no problem being there for someone occasionally, but if the dynamic starts feeling one-sided, where they're constantly giving and the other person is just taking, they shut it down immediately. They've seen it too many times, people who mistake their independence for endless emotional strength, assuming they can handle anything without ever needing support themselves. And because Sigma females rarely complain or burden others with their own struggles, people assume they don't need anything in return. That's where they're wrong. Sigma females value reciprocity, not in a transactional way, but in the sense that relationships of any kind should be mutually fulfilling. If they start feeling like someone's emotional caretaker, where every conversation turns into a therapy session and their presence is expected rather than appreciated, they know it's time to leave. They also despise emotional entitlement, the assumption that just because they listened once, they are now obligated to be a permanent emotional crutch. They don't do rescue missions. If someone refuses to work on their own emotional well-being, and instead leans entirely on a Sigma female for stability, she won't stick around to watch them spiral. She'll walk away before it even becomes her problem. Some might call it cold, but to a Sigma female, it's about self-respect. She refuses to be drained by people who refuse to help themselves. And she will never let guilt or obligation tie her to someone who sees her as a lifeline instead of a person. Her emotional energy is valuable, and if someone expects her to give it away for free, they'll quickly realize just how easily she can take it back. Sigma females don't ghost out of cruelty. They ghost out of clarity. They know exactly what they want, what they refuse to tolerate, and when a connection has run its course. They don't linger in places where they feel drained, unappreciated, or suffocated. And most importantly, they don't believe in forcing what no longer fits. Every disappearance is a silent message. I'm done here. No second chances, no drawn-out explanations, no emotional negotiations. If they walk away, it's because they see no reason to stay. If they go silent, it's because the relationship has lost its meaning. And if they cut someone off, it's not out of spite. It's because they refuse to waste their energy where it isn't valued. What sets them apart is their unapologetic detachment. They don't operate on guilt, nostalgia, or the illusion of forever. They don't wait for people to catch up, beg for closure, or allow desperation to pull them back. Once they decide they're done, they disappear like they never existed. People often misinterpret their silence. Some call it cold, others call it harsh. But the truth is, it's just how they survive. They are not here to be drained, manipulated, or taken for granted. Their world is built on alignment, self-respect, and the unwavering ability to walk away from anything that no longer serves them. Chase them and they'll vanish. Cling to them and they'll detach. Try to guilt them and they'll shut the door forever. But respect their space, match their energy, and prove your value. That's how you keep them. A Sigma female doesn't disappear because she's heartless. She disappears because she knows her worth. If this resonated with you, don't just scroll away, show some love. Hit that like button, drop a comment below, and let me know your thoughts. Ever been ghosted by a Sigma female, or maybe you are the one who ghosts? Let's talk about it. And if you're vibing with this kind of content, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new video. Turn on that notification bell because trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Oh, and don't keep this to yourself. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Whether they're a Sigma female themselves or just trying to understand one, they'll thank you later. Stay sharp, stay self-aware, and as always, keep your energy protected. See you in the next one.